Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to discuss about one more powerful tool of Microsoft Excel known as Scenario Manager. Now what does a Scenario Manager do? A Scenario Manager lets you change different inputs and find out different scenarios. Now to put that into a relatable context, we will be talking about a hypothetical cake shop, okay, where we will see different production costs and different variable costs, fixed cost, selling price. There are some basic data and we will try to find out the profitability of the shop in three different scenarios. We will call one scenario as an optimistic scenario, one as a pessimistic scenario, and maybe one a realistic scenario. So these are three scenarios where there would be different inputs that we would be putting in the system, and based on those inputs we will be finding out what the output would be without actually tampering the base data. Okay, so let's get in. So as I told you, this is the data for our hypothetical cake shop called Swadisht Bakes and Bites. Now here you will see that up here there are a few figures, like it says the selling price per cake currently in this month is 500 rupees. Number of cakes sold monthly is 200. Variable production cost, that is cost associated with production of each cake, is 300, and fixed cost, which are rent, utilities, salaries, etc., which is 20,000 rupees. Okay, this is the monthly cost for a for the shop. Now down here you will see first part is total revenue. Now here in the remarks columns you will see how the total revenue is arrived at. There is a formula behind this cell which says D3 into D4, which translates into selling price per cake into number of cakes sold, total cost, which is the fixed cost and the variable cost. So there is a formula, I am not getting in there, and the profit, which is revenue minus cost. Simple. So this is what has happened in the current month. Now what we are going to see here, we are doing a prediction. Okay, prediction for the upcoming month. What could be our possible profit figures? So here we are going to put in three scenarios. Let's call one scenario as let's say optimistic. So this is an optimistic scenario wherein all our costs remain same, just number of cakes sold increases from 200 to 250. So we have 250 cakes sold, right? This is our projection, okay, that we would be selling 250 cakes. Next let's talk about a pessimistic scenario. Now in the pessimistic scenario, let's say our sales, if what happens if our sales drop to maybe 150 cakes per month, we could sell only 150 cake. Along with that, currently production cost per cake, as you can see, the variable cost variable production cost per cake is 300. Let's say if it increases to 320 rupees, okay, so we are taking a pessimistic figure wherein the number of units sold goes down, our variable cost rise up, and let's throw in one more parameter. Let's say our rent or fixed cost, rent, utilities, whatever, it increases to 25,000 rupees, okay, as fixed cost, right? So this is our pessimistic scenario. Now let's talk about a realistic scenario, right, where in the realistic scenario please ignore if I make any spelling mistake. Now in the realistic scenario, what we are assuming is that we have all the parameters same as it is we are having this month, which is we are selling 200 cakes at 500 rupees per cake. The variable cost is 300 rupees, but let's say our fixed cost increases to 22,000 rupees. So these are the three scenarios. Now we'll find out what happens if we throw in all these scenarios in one place and analyze it. Okay. Now to start with, where do you find the scenario manager? So you have to go up to your data tab. Towards the right, you will see a forecast section. Within forecast section, there is a tab for what if analysis, and the first option that you will get is the scenario manager. Now here let's keep on adding the scenarios. So the first scenario that we are adding is optimistic. Now what are the cells that we are going to change? We are going to change the cells where these data is there, right? So selling price, cake sold, variable production and all. Okay, I'll click OK. Now okay, one more thing I forgot. Now out here you will see it's giving you the cell names, right? D3, D4, D5. Now if you're working with a complex data and you are throwing in a lot of scenarios, it might confuse you. So it's better to rename those cells, right? So how do we do that? Now let's forget scenario manager for the moment. Now if you click on the cell, towards top left you will see that it gives you the cell name as D3, right? So here you can change the cell name. Let's say we'll call it selling price. We'll call it selling price. Okay, I'll hit enter. But remember one thing, the cell name should not have a gap in between, right? No spaces. So it's selling price, selling underscore price. For this cell we'll call it monthly, or I'll shorten it, monthly sales. This one is variable production cost. So we'll go back to this place, we'll call it variable cost. This would be fixed underscore cost, right? Whatever name you put in, does not matter what you write, it should be a name which does not have a space in between. Now out in the output column, let's say I'll say total revenue, I'll call it total cost, and finally profit. Okay, let me click on them and see whether the changes have taken place. Yes, they have. Now let's go back to the scenario manager. So what if analysis, scenario manager. Our first scenario that we are adding is an optimistic scenario, right? The second, I'll put in the scenario name, then it says by changing cells. So I'll select all of them, click OK. Now what was our first scenario? 250 cakes sold. Selling price remains 500, monthly sales instead of 200 we put 250. Rest parameters will remain as it is. So this month we have a variable cost of 300 with a fixed cost of 2000. We'll let it be there and I'll click on OK, right? Now I'll add the second scenario, which is pessimistic. Once again, what are the cells that I would change? D3 through D6. I click on OK. So out here selling price remains same. So instead of 200, we'll have this scenario as 150 cakes sold. Variable cost from 300 it has risen to 320. Fixed cost has gone up from 20,000 rupees to 25,000 rupees. Okay, that's it. So I'm taking the cue from here, whatever I've written, and the final and third scenario is a realistic scenario. So once again, I'll be changing cells D3 through D6 and click on OK. Now here all the parameters remain same, like 500 rupees selling price per unit, cake sold 200, variable cost remains same, just there has been a slight increase in fixed cost. Okay, so these are the three scenarios, right? Now if I click on show, what will happen is that whatever input I have given, it would produce the input out here, okay, in the place of column cell B10, B11 and B12, right? Or what we can do is we can check out a summary, right? So here's a button on this dialog box which says summary. You can click the summary and result cell. So what summary do you want to see? Do I only need to see the profit, or I need total revenue, total cost and total profit? All three. So for us, let's check all three. I'll click OK, and this is your summary, right? So this is the current value. This is my optimistic scenario wherein my profit changes from 20,000 to 30,000. This is my pessimistic scenario wherein profit comes down to only 2,000 rupees, and a realistic scenario wherein there was, if you remember, there was a, if I go back to sheet 1, there was a marginal increase in fixed cost. So that brings us to a profit of 18,000 rupees, and whatever change there has been in the total revenue and total cost. So this is all about scenario manager, a very useful tool, but we don't generally use. I've seen people changing the original values and trying to find out what the output would be by changing different inputs. Start using scenario manager. If you have liked this video, do give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to forward it to your friends who are Excel enthusiasts. See you in the next video.